Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts on the importance of agriculture and agricultural development in Africa's economic growth. I start from the basis that agriculture provides 30% of Africa's GNP, and it also provides 40% of our total export earnings. And moreover, the subsector provides 80% of job employment. Now, the landscape of Africa's agriculture is mostly occupied by smallholder farmers. These are farmers that are sometimes landless, but most often have less than 1 acre to about 2 hectares of farmland. And this is a sector that could become very vibrant and can become the pillar of Africa's economic growth. Agriculture provides the backbone for the economic development of any nation, whether we go back to 18th century, 19th century Europe, or as recently as the 20th century India and China. And today, a good example is one of Vietnam, which only a few years ago, 20 years ago, was a net importer of foods. Today, Vietnam is the 4th largest exporter of rice, and is made of about 60 to 70% smallholder farmers. So we are calling upon governments, particularly African governments, to be faithful to their commitments in Maputo in 2003, where the heads of states and governments agreed to a 10% of all national budgets being attributed to agriculture. Less than a dozen countries have met that target. But at the same time, we're calling upon the international community to be faithful also to their pledges. In Gleneagles, the developed countries, particularly the G7, committed themselves to doubling aid to Africa. Our understanding is that the target is about 20 billion short. And the commitments were again confirmed in Hokkaido in Japan only last year, and recently in April in London when the G20 met. But we believe that there is a silver lining in the horizon. Agriculture is back on the agenda after 20 to 35 years of total decline in investment. It's back on the agenda as a result of the food crisis that occurred about 18 months ago. Our concern, though, is that the current financial and economic crisis is already eclipsing the food crisis. And we're calling upon governments, that African governments in particular, that do not have the stimulus packages to help their national governments to overcome the financial and economic crisis, not to neglect investment in agriculture. Because for us, agriculture, as I said earlier, is not only the engine of economic growth, but investment in smallholder agriculture is the most sustainable safety net to social stability. And food security is a prerequisite for national security. And so we see them as being interwoven and interconnected. And we hope that we'll continue to be the voice and the advocate for the poor in rural communities, and that governments will continue to maintain their impetus in supporting agriculture, as well as the necessary accessories to infrastructure development, linkages to markets, and also providing the platform for vibrant public and private sector partnership. So I hope that with this brief introduction, I've given you enough possibility for questions.
In your view, what is the impact of these large deals which take vast tracts of land out of the hands of local communities on small farmers? Is this in some way a threat to their livelihood, or does it, can it advance stability in these countries?
I think I would not be in a rush to describe these deals or arrangements as land grabs or as neo-colonialism. I believe that we need to look at the background to these deals. I would say that if it is done properly, it should be a win-win situation. We have the extreme situation, as you said, like the case that happened in Madagascar. But we have cases, like in the Sudan, where large tracts of land and water resources are available for such investments. And we must understand the underlying factors why these land arrangements have been done. One is that the investing countries have problems with land and fertile land and also water resources. I mean, as a good example, in the case of the Arab countries, the Gulf countries, Arab countries, the total renewable water resources per person on an annual basis in the Arab world